Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Friday. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Valerie Castro in for Savannah Sellers. We begin this morning with Donald Trump, who is now, for the first time in American history, a former president with a mugshot.
This photo of Donald Trump was taken after he surrendered to Georgia authorities at the Fulton County Jail yesterday. There, he was processed on 13 felony charges in connection with efforts to try and overturn the 2020 presidential election results in the state. With the area around the jail on heavy lockdown, the former president was inside for less than 20 minutes. He was read his rights, fingerprinted, given the identification number P011358809, and then released on a $200,000 bond. After leaving the jail, Trump wasted little time posting his mugshot to X, formerly known as Twitter, and continuing to proclaim his innocence.
What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. And everybody knows it. I've never had such support. And that goes with the other ones, too. What they're doing is election interference. They're trying to interfere with an election.
Should be noted there is no evidence of the former president's election fraud claims, and more than 6 lawsuits brought by Trump's legal team challenging the election results have all failed in court. We have full team coverage of this major moment in American history. We're going to start with NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney and NBC News legal analyst, former federal prosecutor Glenn Kirshner. Good morning to both of you. Ken, let's start with you. This is yet another unprecedented moment. We've seen a lot of them so far, but this is the first time we've seen a mugshot of a former or sitting president. Take us through last night's arrest and what the feeling is around the Trump camp this morning.
Good morning, Joe. Well, that mugshot is really a profound illustration and symbol of how this booking process in Fulton County was strikingly different from the other 3 times that Mr. Trump has been booked in those 2 federal cases and the one in New York, because in Fulton County, he was booked into the jail, a notorious county jail, which is under federal investigation, a nasty place. In the other bookings, he was in courthouses. He was arraigned. That's not what happened here. And although he wasn't treated like any other inmate booked into that jail, officials took steps to approximate the treatment of other inmates. And the mugshot was a great example of that. In no other case did any of the other officials decide that a mugshot was necessary. And the sheriff had told our Blaine Alexander that in Fulton County that he wasn't sure until the very last minute that that was going to go forward. But in the end, they decided to do that. Trump had to post bond like any other defendant through a bail bondsman. There were certain demographic data was taken, including his height and weight, although those don't appear to be accurate. And it just underscored that this is a different kind of a process, a very serious undertaking. Now, in terms of the Trump campaign's reaction, it's one of defiance. As you said, they're already fundraising off this mugshot picture, and they are saying that they believe that this only benefits Mr. Trump. But that really remains to be seen. We've never been here before, as you said, a former president now facing 4 separate criminal indictments. Joe.
A little more detail on what you said, Ken. He said his height was 6'3", his weight 215 pounds. Glenn, now that Trump has been booked and posted bond, does anything change for him legally? How does this impact what he can say and what he can't say?
Yeah, so the so-called gag order is already in place. He can't say anything that would be intimidating or threatening of witnesses. And, you know, only time will tell whether he violates that. And then the next thing that will happen, Joe, is he'll be presented to the court. He'll be arraigned on the charges. That's when he is formally put on notice of what he's been indicted of, what he will have to defend against. He will enter his plea, presumably of not guilty. And then the court will set an all-important next status hearing date. We already had one trial date set for one of Donald Trump's co-conspirators, co-defendants, Kenneth Chesebro. And I think the big thing that we'll all be watching for now is when will the other trial date, or plural dates, be set.
So, Ken, the former president just changed attorneys in Georgia. We've seen him change attorneys before. What can you tell us about this change at such a critical juncture and what we know about his new attorney?
Yeah, he's brought in Stephen Sadow, who's a well-known, well-regarded criminal defense attorney in Atlanta, and importantly has experience with racketeering cases, which is the heart of the charges against Mr. Trump and his co-defendants. In terms of the scheduling and the pace here, most legal experts do not believe that this Fulton County case will be the first case or even the second case that goes to trial involving former President Trump. And in fact, Joe, on Monday, the federal judge in Washington, D.C., Tanya Chutkan, will hold a hearing at which she will set a trial date in the other election suppression case, the one brought by special counsel Jack Smith. And many people believe that is the one most likely to go to trial the earliest next year, Joe.
And Glenn, I mean, one of Trump's co-defendants, Kenneth Chesebro, a campaign lawyer, already has a trial date, and it's soon, 2 months away in October. To be clear, he asked for a speedy trial. So does that have any impact on the case against Trump?
You know, the case against Trump, it might not, Joe, but here's what I suspect will happen. If any of the 18 other defendants request a speedy trial date, Judge McAfee, the presiding judge down in Georgia, will be able to say, well, we have a ready-made speedy trial date on October 23rd because one defendant has already made that demand. So I predict if other defendants request a speedy trial, they will be added in as co-defendants in that October trial. And then the next question becomes, what kind of other trial dates might Fani Willis request for Trump and all the remaining co-defendants? And will it be one mega trial date where she tries to pack all remaining co-defendants in, or might she batch defendants together as we sometimes do in the large-scale RICO cases? And I think these are questions that are going to be answered in the near term.
The calendar is getting complicated. All right, Ken Delaney and Glenn Kirshner, thank you both.
For more, we're now joined by NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin. Julie, good morning. How are Republicans at the Capitol reacting to the former president's latest arrest?
Yeah, good morning, Valerie and Joe. Well, look, obviously Congress is on recess, so those who are speaking out clearly want to speak out. We haven't heard from a number of Republicans. That being said, though, including top Senate Republicans, which is not too surprising because they also were pretty mum when it comes to the former president's prior indictments and legal challenges. But we saw what happened at the courthouse with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who represents a nearby district there in Georgia, coming down just ahead of the former president surrendering. She then took to X or Twitter, posting a mugshot of the former president. So did others who are in his corner, including Andy Biggs and others as well. But we also heard from the number 3 House Republican, and that is Elise Stefanik. She has endorsed the former president. She's the most high-ranking endorsement. She tweeted in part saying Trump is, quote, being arrested for rightfully challenging the election. And she vowed for House Republicans to investigate the, quote, corrupt collusion of Jack Smith and Fani Willis. She went on to accuse President Biden of weaponizing the justice system against Trump. This is something we heard time and time again, but really no surprising reactions from members of Congress.
Someone else showing support, top House Republican and staunch Trump ally Jim Jordan wants DA Fani Willis to turn over any documents or communications between her and special counsel Jack Smith, something she has said repeatedly she hasn't done. What's the congressman trying to do here?
Well, Jordan says he's not buying that. He still believes that there has been some communication, which, by the way, is not against the law. It's totally kosher for departments to be communicating with each other, especially when her investigation followed some of the same lines that special counsel Jack Smith indicted the former president on as well when it comes to 2020 election interference. But we heard from Congressman Jordan last night speaking alongside Oversight Chairman James Comer, and they both said that they are going to be as aggressive in this investigation against DA Fani Willis as they have been in the New York investigation of DA Alvin Bragg during that first indictment there. They charged that Fani Willis did have some kind of communications, and they wrote her a letter saying they want to see if she also took funds from the federal government to conduct her investigation. So they're really trying to see if those two were, as in Jordan's words, colluding in this. Of course, Willis has said they haven't been, but he's really going to do everything he can to defend the former president, because this is really the job of the House Republicans. They do oversight, and this is a pattern that we've seen from them in the past. So it's really not too surprising that they're making this move.
And Julie, so far, these charges are not something that GOP voters seem to care about, with the former president enjoying that wide margin over his Republican rivals. But is there any concern among Republicans on Capitol Hill that this is overshadowing their effort to win the 2024 presidential election?
Yeah, that's such a great point, Mallory. And there's a couple of things there, right? Because you have Republicans on Capitol Hill who don't want former President Trump back in the White House, right? You have senators and House members who already come out and endorse the other candidates who are vying for that 2024 election nomination from the Republican Party. We saw what happened on the debate stage this week. Of course, Trump still managed to overshadow them, even though he wasn't there. And then you have other Republicans who are vulnerable, who are maybe in districts that Biden won, who think that having Trump on the ballot again could hurt their chances of even winning back the House and the Senate come 2024. So there are a couple things happening at the same time here. Certainly Republicans prefer to focus on economics, on immigration, on things they really think they can have a leg up over Democrats. Trump, especially when it comes to these election interference cases, keeps 2020 back in the headlines over and over again. And we saw what happened in the last election. That wasn't entirely popular with voters.
All right, Julie Sirkin, thanks so much.
Let's turn now to NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. John, good morning to you. So in the race for President Trump, still has a large lead over his Republican rivals for the party's nomination. It's support that has not wavered despite the 4 indictments. In fact, a recent NBC News poll with the Des Moines Register, it shows that about 2/3 of likely GOP Iowa caucus goers believe Trump has not committed serious crimes. Any reason to believe that this is going to change anything, especially now with the mugshot being made public?
Yeah, good morning, Joe, and good morning, Valerie. Nothing is going to change from this. What we saw was a Republican debate earlier this week among people who are competing for second place. It is right now a one-man race. It has been for quite some time now. That could, of course, change at some point, but we've seen the former president indicted repeatedly. And then after that debate, after all that attention was given to those candidates, what we saw was the most momentous surrender in Georgia history since the mayor of Savannah turned over the keys to General Sherman back in the Civil War.
So, John, I mean, Trump is facing a number of legal troubles. During that debate you mentioned on Wednesday, most of his rivals pledged to support him as the party's nominee, even if he's convicted. Is there any sign this latest indictment is going to change the strategy of anyone's campaign beyond Chris Christie, who's been really the only one incredibly critical of him?
There really isn't any sign of that. To your point, 7 out of 8 of them said that if he's convicted of a crime, they will still support him if he's a Republican nominee. I think it makes it very difficult and has made it very difficult for these candidates to get any traction against him at a moment where they're basically saying, look, voters, if you nominate him, we're going to be unified behind him. Even Christie, who, to your point, has been very critical, and Asa Hutchinson, the former governor of Arkansas, who just had on the screen there, who's very critical of him. It is not amounting to really making a case that Donald Trump either shouldn't be the nominee for reasons that he would lose the general election, or perhaps that he shouldn't be the nominee because he is somebody who is potentially going to be convicted of crimes.
So we had an interesting development last night. For the first time since January 6th, Trump posted something on X, the site formerly known as Twitter. How significant is that? Remember, he was kicked off after January 6th. Elon Musk reinstated him, but he hasn't posted on it until now. What's the strategy behind using X for the first time in more than 2 years?
Yeah, Prince, or X, or the artist formerly known as Twitter, is a much broader platform than the Truth Social platform that he's been posting to for a long time. So this is a way for him to communicate, obviously, directly with the millions and millions of his supporters, but also with a broader audience. There's been a little bit of a waiting game since he had the Twitter ban lifted from him and has been allowed to come back to that platform. He had not done it. Now we see the mugshot, and I guess we'll have to see whether he continues to use Twitter. But it is a weapon of choice for him, as we saw in the 2016 election and throughout his presidency and into the 2020 election.
All right, John Allen, good to have you with us this week. We appreciate your analysis.
Turning now to California, where officials are continuing their search for a motive behind Wednesday's Orange County mass shooting. 4 people were killed and another 6 were injured when an ex-cop opened fire in a popular biker bar. NBC News national correspondent Miguel Almaguer has the latest.
As the chaos unfolded and 911 calls flooded in,
male came in and started shooting. Each officer fired.
Law enforcement sources tell NBC News the gunman, a retired police officer, opened fire inside this historic Southern California biker bar, apparently targeting his estranged wife, killing 3.
I saw 2 bodies drop.
With shots fired just after 7 p.m., it took officers 2 minutes to arrive at Cook's Corner, an Orange County venue popular with families. Authorities say the shooter, identified as retired Ventura County Police Sergeant John Snowling, was armed with multiple guns.
Oh my God, Marie.
NBC Los Angeles speaking to a witness who was with the gunman's wife, Marie Snowling, who was shot in the jaw and survived.
He turns around and then he starts shooting at me and Marie, his wife. When I saw people running, I'm like, oh my God, I got shot at and I didn't die and I better run now before I get killed.
With 6 people hospitalized, investigators say the gunman immediately began firing at arriving officers who killed him in a hail of gunfire.
All of a sudden he started hearing gunshots more and people started screaming and running.
The scene of chaos and carnage with innocent families in the crosshairs.
Our thanks to Miguel Almaguer for that reporting. Investigators are continuing to comb through every aspect of that suspect's life. It appears he may have driven all the way to California from Ohio with a plan to kill.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is offering his condolences to the family of Yevgeny Prigozhin, who's presumed dead after Wednesday's plane crash. Russian aviation officials say the leader of the mercenary Wagner group was on the private jet when it came down in a region northwest of Moscow. NBC News foreign correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins us now with the latest on this. So, Megan, as we know, Prigozhin was behind that aborted Moscow mutiny back in June. What is Putin saying about him in this incident?
So, Joe, good to be with you. Good morning. We did hear from Vladimir Putin yesterday for the first time, breaking his silence, saying that this is an ongoing investigation and that his investigators need more time. He went on to offer condolences to Yevgeny Prigozhin's family and then went on to offer what appeared to be sort of mixed emotions. I want to read for you so you can decide. He says, this was a person with a complicated fate. He made mistakes in life, but also sought to achieve the results he wanted for himself and in response to my request for a common cause. Now, a lot of speculation on if Putin was referring to that mutiny that was launched by Prigozhin, which ended up happening 2 months to the day that aircraft went down. Joe?
So, Megan, clearly lots of reports, lots of suspicions circulating around what may have caused the crash. What's NBC News learning from U.S. officials, and what's just the initial assessment from the Pentagon?
Right. So NBC News has confirmed from two U.S. officials that from the investigation and the intelligence that they have gathered so far, that they believe that sabotage is what brought that plane down. They believe that there was some sort of an explosive on board that went off and created that crash. But I want you to listen to a little bit of what the Pentagon said. Take a listen.
Our initial assessment is that it's likely Prigozhin was killed. We're continuing to assess the situation. We don't have any information to indicate right now. The press reporting stating that there was some type of surface-to-air missile that took down the plane. That we assess that information to be inaccurate. Again, nothing to indicate, no information to suggest that there was a surface-to-air missile.
Again, two U.S. officials saying that they believe that there is intelligence to suggest that this was sabotage, and again, that it is likely that an explosive was on board, but they don't have enough information to say that definitively at this point, Joe.
So, Megan, while all this is playing out, of course, the war in Ukraine continues. We understand Kyiv has been renewing its attacks on Crimea. What can you tell us about that?
That's right. Kyiv has said that they've launched this special operation as they continue this slow-moving counteroffensive. According to Russian officials, they say that a missile was launched right near Moscow that they were able to knock down. They also say that some 42 drones were launched into Crimea. They were able to knock those down as well, they say. No reports of damage, no reports of injuries. But this is something that we have been seeing most certainly for the last several weeks, is that these attacks going into Russian territory, these drones that are being launched into Russian territory. Over the last several days, we have seen major airports within Russia having to ground aircraft, causing delays because of these drones. We've seen explosions taking place inside Russia. While Ukraine is pushing forward through this counteroffensive, we know that the people inside Russia are rattled, are on edge, and frankly, fearful as the war in some ways is being returned to their front doors.
Right.
Joe?
Megan Fitzgerald. Megan, thank you so much.
Dangerously high temperatures expected again today from Kansas City to New Orleans.
Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us now with the latest forecast for your morning news now weather. Angie, good morning.
Good morning to you guys. We made it to Friday, and we've seen some improvements for some folks when it comes to those temperatures you just mentioned. But yes, we're still going to have a large section of the country dealing with oppressive afternoon highs, and we're going to talk about that. But some relief is on the way for folks like Chicago that dealt with a temperature of 100 degrees yesterday and feels like temperatures of 120. So incredible heat was kind of centered over the Midwest down to parts of the Gulf Coast. And the Midwest is doing a lot better, but it comes at a price. We've got a system working through this region here, and even overnight, places like Detroit had really strong storms, severe storms, and even a couple of reports of tornadoes last night. Now that rain has worked out towards the East Coast, so we've got Boston, New York dealing with already some flight delays. So if you're headed out early this morning, check in with the airlines because we've seen that. Eventually, this will start to work offshore, but that cold front moves a little farther to the south and east, and even the northeast will see a little bit of a difference in your humidity levels as we get into tomorrow. So that is what's going on for folks up there. But notice that cooler air is not reaching from basically St. Louis down to New Orleans, out towards Houston, Dallas, you name it in this area. And we're going to continue to see temperatures flirting with those triple digits, if not higher than 100 degrees, and feeling much warmer than that. Nashville, heads up, you're headed to 100 degrees today. You'll feel like 108. Kansas City, similar story there with a feels like temperature this afternoon of 108. Lake Charles will see a heat index value of 112 this afternoon. So that really oppressive heat stays in place from really the southern plains all the way through the southeast, and it centers there over the next couple of days. We're not going to see improvements in this region, but places like Kansas City, you'll see some minor improvements as you get into tomorrow, and really across parts of the Midwest and stretching into the Northeast. A nice couple of days as we round out our weekend and head into our upcoming work week with temperatures into the low 80s. Unfortunately, for our friends in the south like Houston, you'll still be in the triple digits. Monday, Tuesday, you'll be close to that 100 mark. So we don't see a whole lot of improvements when it comes to the temperatures there. And when we look at our kind of longer range, as we look into next week, it looks like that part of the country still will have warmer than average conditions. So we'll be closely watching that. When we look ahead to the weekend, we've got a couple things to note. Of course, I mentioned the cooler conditions and the stifling heat, but some heavy rain is expected as we get into parts of the Rockies for Saturday. So heads up if you have outdoor plans. The West Coast looks great, especially after last weekend and dealing with the busy conditions of Tropical Storm Hillary. You got plenty of sunshine and nice temperatures to deal with there. Looking ahead to Sunday, a great day across the Midwest, the Northeast, but the showers and thunderstorms will be centered across parts of the Southeast, and we'll once again be dealing with those record highs. It doesn't look like we have much, relief coming for folks there, so we'll still be into the triple digits for our friends in the South. And the extended period.
It's so interesting because I was looking, you and I will head to Washington today for Saturday today, and it's going to be 10 degrees hotter there, and it's not that far away.
And it's just that cold front. Then eventually, as it sinks south, you'll see Washington, D.C. will see a little improvement too.
Okay, sounds good.
Just got to wait for it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.